Hey, everybody, I'm Dwayne Carey, and welcome to The Point, where we have one interesting guest for 10 minutes or less. Today, I'm really excited to have my friend Mallory. I think Mallory might be maybe the most popular girl in all of pet care. I think that's pretty accurate. Mallory Poyer from Pack Pro. Mallory also owns Fetch and Catch and is a consultant in the industry, and I think pretty much everybody knows Mallory. So, with that, hi, Mallory.
Hi, that is very kind words of you to say, Dwayne. I appreciate that.
Can I tell people that just before we hit record here, you were saying how 10 minutes is maybe not doable for you and maybe you need like 90?
Yeah, this is anybody who's heard me teach. I always go over. If you've been fortunate enough to work with me one-on-one, you know that we're the last ones out in daycare and Dan's telling me to wrap it up. So yeah, this is going to be interesting.
Well, as a reminder for everybody, we do a quick introduction, then we have 7 or 8 minutes for our guests to make their point, and then at the very end, another minute for a shout out. So this really does go quick. So Mal, what is your point?
So I think an interesting take for this segment was going to be, I obviously focus a lot on staff training and just staff well-being. I got thinking the other day with a consulting client about she was kind of redoing a lot of her space and wanting to reinvest some of the profits of her business into the actual brick and mortar. And it got me thinking that was her first thought was, I want to upgrade my puppy playground equipment and I want to get new Kuranda beds. But I couldn't help but kind of question her and saying, well, what have we invested into the staff, right? And it kind of got her thinking. That wasn't the first on her agenda either. I think in this industry, we get really distracted by all the bright and shinies. It's fun, right, to redo your retail wall and things like that. But we often forget about the staff sometimes and reinvesting into them.
I'm amazed at your approach here because I was sure you were going to be talking about Pack Pro and getting more revenue per square footage by bringing a lot more dogs in. But you're right, and I think this is a testament to your consulting, because you're just like us. You're just looking out for what's in the client's best interest,
and the rest will follow, right?
Very often, staff is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. And I think Dan and I have ran our businesses, and you guys will meet Dan too. Though we focus primarily on the things that matter the most to us, which is clients, dogs, and staff. But we've been very fortunate to lead a very successful business, several that are doing very well financially. So I think you can have both, right? So I think when you're investing into your teams and you're giving them the proper training they need, investing, even so often we think of just giving them more money, right? Here's $1 raise, here's $2 of a raise. And I do find that at least my team and the teams I'm working with consulting wise, they're not always just motivated by $1 per hour. So that could look like more one-on-one intentional meetings. Okay. That's obviously going to cost you in payroll, but that one-on-one meeting to really coach and sit down with that person and get to know them is going to make them perform better, is going to keep the dog safer, and you can take more dogs per square foot. So I really think this approach allows you to have the best of both worlds. At least it did for us. And that's really been a big differentiator with how we manage our team, is by investing a lot into them, heavily into them.
And I think that's really smart because, we see that across the whole economy, and especially among younger people, they're not as money oriented, but especially in pet. Most people are not in pet for the money.
Correct.
They're in it for the love of the animals and then the camaraderie.
Absolutely. And I think this industry is very seductive in the way that it does give people like, wow, dogs, that's going to be so amazing to work with dogs. This is why I could use more than 10 minutes, because you could look at it another way too, in the sense that they're going to need the support from their leaders, right? They're going to need, once they're in this business, dogs are amazing, but we all know the compassion fatigue that comes with it.
Yes.
That's why I talk about investing into them, because without our teams, we don't have a business. And if you find yourself experiencing high turnover, or the culture of your business just isn't feeling right, you have to ask yourself, well, what have I invested back into my staff? Am I quick to invest it back into fun upgrades for my building, or have I invested into their training, continuing education, even communication? We hold a couple meetings per year on effective communication amongst your team. And that really helps my staff be able to effectively communicate with each other during high stress times of, busy boarding. They're able to really break down those walls of communication because we've invested in the man hours to train them on it.
So at Fetch and Catch, I know you and Dan have Pack Pro, it's a much
Yes.
tighter organization, but at Fetch and Catch, you have a huge operation. So how many staff do you have currently at Fetch and Catch?
I think we're right around 55 right now.
Okay.
So it's quite large. We see around 250 dogs a day between all of our services. And the only reason we were able to scale it is because of the quality of our team. I mean, I say it all the time. They're incredible. But I do feel like I don't think that happened by chance. I think Dan and I were deliberate in how we were paving the way for them to grow within our organization and what we were investing into them as people.
That's the marks of great leaders. I mean, it really is. And that's probably why they want to stick around and they want to grow. I think we've talked before that you've got a lot of opportunity there for people to have a career ladder.
Yeah.
Is that part of this too?
It is. And it kind of just developed because of the growth, right? I mean, it's hard. And I've worked with, other business owners that want all these layers, but they don't necessarily have the amount of dogs to support that. And Dan and I really can attribute, the amount we've been able to kind of take a step back from our business and focus on our families where we need to because of all the layers in the organization I have. But I've cultivated all of those people into those leadership positions through investing into them. But also simultaneously, while that was happening, customer service was through the roof. People were telling their friends to come to Fetch and Catch, and we are busy. We also have an okay marketing team. But yeah, I think truly giving us the diving board off into this growth mode has allowed us a lot of different layers of leadership and management and opportunity for my staff to kind of grow within the organization.
And when you think about it, that's exactly how I introduced you as, Fetch and Catch, Pack Pro, consulting. You can't do all of those things.
Correct.
If you don't have staff really running it. I was just on a call just before this with a new client that they're only 2 years into the business, husband and wife. She was talking about the husband was over there cleaning poop, I mean, they're working in the business very much so. And it really is a conscious choice to invest in the staff and to empower them. I think the empowerment is a big part of this.
Absolutely. They need that, especially in this industry when things can sometimes feel isolating when you're working in a pack of dogs and it's been a long day and a long week. There's something to be said about setting aside that personal time to invest into, and that could look like having team meetings or team bonding experiences. The culture doesn't just happen, and we do invest, or even little things as simple as like a birthday shout out every month. It's somebody's birthday amongst our organization. They can order whatever food they want for lunch within reason. We've had people do, Olive Garden breadsticks and soup and just make it really just dependent on what they like, but it's fun and people look forward to it. But that does cost money, right? Yeah. I mean, if I set aside that budget
for sure,
I could go probably get a bunch of new, those donut toys that cost an arm and a leg that people are throwing out in their daycare spaces. That's expensive. And I think there's room for both, but we have to make sure we're equally focused on the staff investment as we are the other fun stuff.
So as we start to wrap this portion of it, say you're talking to a consulting client and they really haven't done this yet. They haven't really embraced, they haven't embraced delegation, mm-hmm. and they want to, what kind of tips do you have for them to at least get started on doing more to empower and take care of the staff?
I'll try to make this quick. I think you
have 70 more minutes.
I think you could look at this a couple ways. We will sometimes start, it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? If you don't have the dogs to support promoting somebody to a full-blown manager, doing things like finding what staff in your organization are natural leaders. So I just look at people that my staff are following anyway. You can call someone a manager, but if no one is following them, then, that's not a true leader. I focus on those that are, that warmth, energy, those good vibes, and I start to pour into them. And that could look like taking them out for like a leadership lunch where we just talk about what it takes to become a good leader. I also will do things like webinars. Cy Wakeman is a great one we love. We'll start to pour into them as far as continuing education. You can do little things like that are pretty inexpensive. And just those weekly or, biweekly check-ins, kind of cultivating them to start taking over as like a shift lead position. You don't have to pay them more for that. It's almost like an audition for a manager, right? So all of our managers has started off in more of a shift lead. It's not forever, it's not a permanent position, but if I want to go, take an afternoon to go do something else, they can take over the shift and I can come back and see how it went. Are the walls still standing? Are all the staff still happy? I can see how that person kind of performed in those moments and giving them feedback in that real time. That can help start to develop some of your layers without a big commitment financially. And that's kind of how we've cultivated all of our leaders.
Okay, well, that's great advice.
Yeah.
See how the people who are doing it well are doing it and copy that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So Mal, we're at the end. Told you it would go fast. How about a shout out?
I was kind of going back and forth, but I think I owe it to my team to shout out them. I mean, truthfully, I could have everything in place, but watching them actually do it, it has been so incredibly rewarding, especially my managers. I'll kind of shout them out, my whole team in general, because we couldn't do any of this without them. But my managers have been such a pivotal role in this whole operation in terms of keeping my staff accountable. That doesn't always look like just telling somebody when they're not doing something right. My managers make sure to have that balance of, when someone's doing a great job, I notice my managers telling them that, and they're living proof and they're walking the walk of what we're teaching. So I have to shout out them for doing it. I can tell them to do it, but they're actually watching them fulfill it every day has been so rewarding.
That's awesome. I don't know if you just heard my dog barking because my son just arrived home, but hey, we have a pet audience, so hopefully it's okay.
I thought it was scripted. I thought you were like, okay, and cue the bark.
Well, real quick, since you didn't really talk about Pack Pro, I just want to tell everybody that if you don't already know Pack Pro, please go check out Pack Pro. We have so many clients that we share in common, and they're dog whisperers. Like they can teach your people online how to bring a lot more dogs into a daycare environment and keep everybody from killing each other. And it's
in summary,
it's pretty awesome. Mallory, thanks so much.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.